Shares of Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein parent company PVH are now lower. They were higher after reporting earnings just moments ago, beating the street, raising its full-year guidance. And joining us now in a CNBC exclusive to discuss these results is Manny Chirico, PVH CEO. Welcome. Nice to see you. So what's working for you? Looks like Calvin Klein especially strong.
Yes, I think Calvin Klein and the Tommy Hilfiger business are two big brands is really what driving our growth, both from a domestic North America base and continued growth internationally, driven by Europe and China.
Is there something to read into the price points there that are working? If the growth there is 15% or so, but
yes.
If your heritage brands is low, only 3%?
Well, I think that, yes, I think what I would describe as premium brands, I'm not talking luxury, but premium brands, it's a good place to be, especially when you think about Asia as a market. Those price points are really strong for us there, and the growth really works for us at those price points. So I would read into that. The challenge with the heritage businesses, which had a good quarter, the challenges with those businesses are they're solely North America based for the most part. And you just don't have, they've been around for 100 years, they just don't have necessarily the growth, constant earnings, and that you can count on from a cash flow.
But you're pushing some of those into Europe, though, now.
We just started to push our Izod brand into Europe and have gotten a good reception. But again, we're talking about a really small base at this point. But we're enthusiastic about it.
It's interesting you point to Europe and Asia as the real growth engines here. We've been fixated on what the U.S. consumer is doing and how it's acting. Where is the kind of growth coming from in those areas? Meaning, from just other brands, non-brands? Is it just a kind of a play on expanding middle class?
Well, I think you have to, if you think about the Tommy Hilfiger brand, we are really benefiting from the marketing initiatives and the resurgence of that brand over the last few years, and it just continues to grow very strong. On the Calvin Klein side of the business, the Calvin Klein brand is much bigger than Tommy Hilfiger in just about every region except Europe. And there's just open to fill space for us in Europe. And we've been growing the Calvin brand for the last 3 years, about 25% in Europe. So there's a lot of white space that there's to fill. And even today, we see $1 billion sales opportunity for us over the next 3 to 4 years.
Manny, I've been doing a lot of work on influencers, models, and celebrities that back a product and that create this whole halo effect over the product. You're seeing it at Adidas. I've talked about Kanye West, at Nike with Virgil Abloh. Wasn't it Gigi Hadid for you at Tommy Hilfiger? And now that she's no longer with you, is that a risk to this resurgence you've seen in the brand?
Well, it's a great question. The use of influencers, I would argue, was started by Calvin Klein when you think about it as you go back from Marky Mark and some of those iconic Brooke Shields, exactly. And I think Tommy really captured it with Gigi on two levels. The Tommy brand has been very much more skewed to men's than women's, and I think Gigi just gave us a license to grow that women's component the last 3 years very strongly. I think we will have an announcement in the next month or two. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but I think there'll be another female spokesmodel for us that we think will really you us through the day.
Well, you have the Kardashians in the underwear.
On the Calvin Klein side of the event, that's been a real win. You know, you talk about iconic launches. Justin Bieber 2 years ago. We followed that with the Kardashians about 6 months ago. The new launch in underwear and jeans this season. We're really seeing momentum in the businesses. And you have to change your marketing approach. It really was television and print, if you go back 10 years, and today it's all digital, social media, and maybe 20% of our media spend is on the digital side, is on the traditional side.
A slightly boring question to round it off, but interesting nonetheless, particularly for our viewers. We'll talk about the currency impact. Is that weighed on the results a little bit relative to
it? Clearly was a real headwind if you go back 2 years with the strengthening dollar. This year, it's leveled off. The challenge we faced is when we opened the year, just as an example, the euro was 124. Today, it's 116. On a year-to-year basis, it's about a flat impact. But when we started the year, we projected that it would be about a 35-cent benefit, and it's only turning out to be about a 7-cent benefit. So we've been able to continue to raise our earnings despite those currency hits in the first 2 quarters.
Very quickly, how much of your product is produced in China, and is that at risk of escalation in this trade fight?
About $400 million of product is produced in China for the U.S. market. probably another 600 out for our businesses outside of U.S. But if you're focused on tariffs, that might be an impact if it gets that far. It's relatively speaking not that big a component for us from a tariff point of view. Of course, we don't think that's the way to approach the trade negotiation as the only lever and the only weapon.
Though you're laying out the numbers, a lot of retailers did not do that this quarter. Manny,
we tried to.
Thank you.
Thank
Manny
you.
Chirico, PVH CEO.
I want to know who the next influencer is going to be.
I know, that was quite a tease.
Oh, anyway.
We'll find out in a month, is that what you said?